Okay, the handoff across the pond has worked as advertised. I'm Gary Hendershot, broadcasting to you live at 5 o'clock in the evening now on the East Coast of the United States on August 8th, 2013. You're listening to the United We Strike Marathon, and we're broadcasting live from my secret underground bunker, only 12 miles south of that den of iniquity, Washington, D.C. And the first presentation that I'd like to introduce for you this evening is Dr. Dean Lloyd and Am Rosen, and I'll be bringing them live directly. Okay, gentlemen, I believe if I hit all the buttons correctly, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the United We Evolve edition of the United We Strike Marathon. So we've been kicking around the human condition, all around the sad same point. If the merry-go-round never stops, it soon loses its merry. We just keep going around and around. We're revolving. We're going over the situations that are impairing our satisfaction, our fulfillment, but we keep coming around. What we want to do is drop the R from the revolve. We want to leave it as evolve. If each time we go around our cycle of life, personal, yearly, social, global, each time we go around, if we become more conscious of what's going on, then the next time we come through this particular territory, we don't quite see it in the same way. We have new tools, new perspectives, new insights to bring to bear. And so instead of going around and around, we start to create a spiral of evolving awareness. And it's our awareness, the level of consciousness that we're operating from, that's going to affect how we deal with things and how things, if we don't deal with them, how they subsequently deal with us. Because right now, personally, individually, collectively, socially, we're locked into a state of dynamic disequilibrium. There's so much energy in any containment field, whether it's your personal containment field or whether you're thinking globally. But instead of being in balance, instead of us being in harmony, and instead of us being able to access everything that's available to us, use it when we see fit in the way we see fit, and move on, we've got too much here and not enough there. It creates blockages. It creates deficiencies. The excesses start to strain us, and we are always juggling, always scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. Excuse me, listening to some of the presenters, there's beautiful information coming up, very necessary. As a professional, as a philosopher functioning through the healing arts, as a health consultant for over 37 years, dealing with people from every walk of life, every age, every condition, the art is individual application. You need the information. But if the body is locked into imbalance, and the feelings are subconsciously attuned to perpetuating that imbalance, not because you would consciously choose to, I said subconsciously, and you suddenly give the body something it needs, or take away something it shouldn't be getting that's gumming up the works, well, the body doesn't know in and of itself what to do. It's locked into these patterns. You have to look at not only what the body needs, what it needs to get rid of, but how the person is processing themselves. You have to understand the relation of the thinking level of consciousness. You know, if we sit down, there's no pressure on us. Hey, let me pour you a nice cup of tea here. We'll just have a nice, reasonable, rational discussion. Well, let's go. We can bring up a lot of interesting insights, ideals. But if we get too tired, too lonely, too frustrated, too anxious, too afraid, too horny, whatever it is, to where we're thrown off kilter, to where our center of reason can't quite function, then where do we revert to? We revert to the subconscious feeling patterns, which we've been fighting. Gee, I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to feel like I'm not good enough. I don't want to feel like I'm not smart enough. I don't want to feel like people can push me around or take unfair advantage of me. Why do you feel that way? Where do these responses come from? What do you do about it? Well, no, I'm better than that. You come up with mental structures. We come up with social structures, ideals. But somewhere between the idea and what that idea intonates as a range of motion, as an access to energy and space, somewhere between that idea, and the actual functioning application of it, there's a lot of space. And it leaves us in a war zone, both personally and what we do to ourselves, we'll certainly do to anybody else that lets us. If we're battling ourselves, we're battling each other. When we talk about evolving, we're talking about becoming more consciously aware. It's not that what we have is wrong. It's not right or wrong. It's imbalanced. The focus, the emphasis is poor. But we're invested in, as I said, in a state of dynamic disequilibrium. How do you motivate yourself? Well, this is who I am. This is what I can get. And one of the things that Dean and I talk about on other shows, and we want to bring to you, because all of this can be quite succinctly and efficiently resolved once and for all when you actually understand what's going on. Most people are at war between what they feel and what they think. They're always rationalizing. Hey, if I took this substance here, if I didn't have to put up with that, if they wouldn't be like this, if we could all get together, what are we doing? We're rationalizing. And to whom are we rationalizing? We're rationalizing to the negative feelings we have about ourselves. That no matter how intelligent, scientifically validated, or appropriate our thoughts are, we still don't feel comfortable. It's, it's when we get knocked out of our center of reason. So part of this evolving process is unmiring ourselves, unhooking ourselves from these irrational subconscious processes that have us, so to speak, by the short hairs. Now, that is all healing, physical, emotional, mental, it's a spiritual. It's a process of becoming conscious. When you're conscious, you have access to the energies involved. You can pick them up, put them down, rearrange them according to what seems most appropriate. You can just leave them there. They stop being something you're aiming for. They become a integrated part of your psychological artist's palette. What do I want to employ or deploy in this particular situation? What's going to help me achieve this or that? But you're not bossed around by your tools of consciousness. Most people do not know how to get relief from a mind that's constantly picking on themselves. And that makes them susceptible. Every parasite, whether it's a social, political parasite, an economic parasite, or a physical, biological parasite, there must be host receptivity before a parasite can take place, can get in and do its thing. We are receptive to being manipulated because we are running away from ourselves, dividing ourselves and hiding ourselves. And what I want to make you aware of is that all this can be quite easily and intelligently reconciled, leaving you free to access these, what's been called the subconscious, are really your feeling responses. Why, of all the ways you could respond to something, is this the way you respond? Where did that come from? For most people, it was locked in before your intellects developed to a point where you could consider things, screen them, judge them. You took them in, and later when your intellect developed, we overlaid them with ideas and constructs. That's the bother. Anyway, I want to say that all of this can be resolved, and think of how much more we could accomplish if we weren't so locked up and inhibited. Dean, I want you to jump in and bring us around a bit.
Beautiful. Thank you, Am. And as doing this work in Oriental medicine for 26 years and being a facilitator for the healing process, I've had to grow beyond just the techniques that I've been using in homeopathy, in Oriental medicine, in using oxygen therapies. These are all contributions to the healing process. And what I'd like to talk about in the evolving species topic is our show focuses on what are the solutions that the humanity is facing. As Anne was describing, that there's so much good information that's coming from this show, we need to take a step into the direction of solution. And I'd like to read something that we had put on the show earlier. This is a consideration for all of us. Am did a write-up on evolving the species, and I'd like to quote him on a couple paragraphs here to give this some focus. Consider whether individually and or collectively where we are going. What are we doing? And just how much pleasure do we need to be able to accustom ourselves in order to get there? That's right, pleasure. Pain, physical, emotional, and or mental, always indicates a blockage leading to toxic buildup, stagnancy, or decay. Pain exhausts, debilitates, and limits you. Pain makes you pull back, avoid, and constrict your range of motion by diminishing one's ability to participate in vitality of the living process. Gradually, pain wears you out and shuts you down. Okay, what's pleasure? Pleasure, physical, emotional, and or mental, installs and or enhances already activated feedback circuitry which guides your way towards optimal functioning. Pleasure enhances you to become more open, expansive, inclusive, and integrated. Pleasure coaxes you through the ever-changing circumstances of fate towards the actualization of our destiny. So we think of these things, oh, obviously I know what pain is, I stubbed my toe, ouch, ouch. But what about all the emotional pain that we're going through right now? If we're perceiving our environment and all the people around us as being enemies or as being somehow destructive, we have to be on guard all the time. What does that mean? Does that mean that we're, in a constant state of defensive posturing, or we're not able to receive pleasure? Perhaps, but that's what we're directing. We're trying to not just bring in with our shows the topics that are difficult to discuss, or it may not even be available to people that didn't even know were available. And I'll just mention 3 of them that we've done recently. One of them was the hormones and the relationship to biological dentistry. And the other one we did on the effects of men and women on the hormones and psychologically of abortion. Now, those are just starters. We're going into every aspect of healing, every aspect, every perspective. And we can only do this if we get it clear that we ourselves are integrated emotionally, and we have the tools to be able to provide you, the listener, on how to reach a higher level, and not just in this space of saying, oh, well, my headache's gone, that must mean I'm feeling better, but actually integrating what it's like to feel pleasure. And Am, would you please pick up from there?
Thank you, Dean. I appreciate the quote. Okay. How good can you feel? Okay, most people do confuse the absence of pain with pleasure. If the body's imbalanced, and by the way, listening to some of the wonderful presentations going on, the thing is that you're getting a lot of information. But when, as a person who's hands-on, who's been there with people from the rich and famous, who I will not name, the very, and people who are illiterate, and every walk in between at every age, you're not adjusting people to some statistics. Statistics may be interesting or helpful to figure into things. You're not adjusting them to yourself or anybody else's ideal. You're looking for the comfort level of their dynamic. And that's an ongoing process. The X factor in any of this is consciousness. And for most people, that X factor is played out subconsciously. We're not talking about getting relief from pain. That's helpful. Let's break up the blockage. But even when you do that, you need to, it's like if you have a car with a fine engine and you've put the wrong quality of oil and gas in it, and it's gotten all gummed up on you. Well, you can't say, okay, I won't just put the bad stuff in anymore. I'll put the good stuff, because it still won't work. You're going to have to rebore, realign, reset the timing before the good stuff will do its job properly. And this happens both on the physical level and the emotional level. Dynamic disequilibrium. We may not be comfortable, but this is how we define ourselves. I call it the vanity of suffering. It's my frustration, my outrage, my disappointment, my unhappiness. And you can't take it from me, because that's how I define myself. All of that is a product of fear. It's a product of defended misunderstanding. We're not just talking about getting away from what hurts. And boy, if you can get away from it, thank goodness. That's a release. Good. We're talking about bringing more ranges of energy and expression, making them available to you in a way where you feel secure enough inside that you can start to explore, play with them, to experiment with them, but not have to sell yourself a bill of goods in order to justify it. But you can't be wrong if you don't have to be right. When you really understand it's yours, it's become functionally integrated, and until you understand, no matter what you think, what you know, how many backing statistics you have on a particular point of view, you are still a student of the process. But we want to be right, because we want to have a reason to motivate ourselves. How do we motivate ourselves? Now, the problems we're facing have been going on since humanity first emerged. But with mass production, mass transportation, mass communication, everything is becoming exacerbated. It's becoming pushed. The discrepancy between the possibilities that we see and realize in our minds about what we want to be and can be, and what we touch upon, ricochet through, here and there, through one means or another, and the places we still feel mired emotionally are causing us great distress. We talk about gut emotions, because regardless of what you think about something or what you avoid thinking about, everything you feel responds viscerally and creates tissue disposition. So part of the healing process, part of this evolving process of becoming more aware, is one in which you need to take into consideration the body. As you may have heard me say, the beast needs a good master, or mistress, as the gender may be. We've cultivated, we've domesticated the animal. It's not running wild in nature, just with the sun and the moon and the seasons, getting what's locally available. We've learned to extend all that. But part of that is, without mass production, we wouldn't be able to talk right now. We wouldn't be able to sustain large populations. But there's been a lot of sweeping the dirt under the rug, short-sighted expediency. And there's only so much room under that rug. It's now no longer any left, and it's starting to float back out to choke us. Some people call that approaching critical mass. Now, we're all aware of the confusion. It's funny, when I've dealt with people who are, you might say, more socially positioned, in and of themselves, they're people, just like everybody else. But in their positioning, they go for what seems to give them power. Why? Because they're as confused as everybody else. They just have more access. Power, whatever the power is energy that's been given a conscious direction. In the sense of a cyclone or a hurricane, it's the geothermal forces of nature that are controlling that. When you harness an energy and give it direction, you get a sense of power. Power has no intention of its own. It is neither good nor bad. It's not right or wrong. It strictly depends on the quality of the intelligence. That is the comprehensive understanding that's using it. If you are being directed by a sense of fear irrationally and says, well, I've got to get what sustains my advantage, what sustains who I think I am, well, then you can justify just about anything. As I said, if we sat down and had that cup of tea and it was quiet, you might say, well, yeah, I guess I did fudge it here. But when you're on the go and what you're trying to do is capitalize and show that who you are is right and what you are, it's a reflex. Well, everybody needs help right now. And one of the things I want to tell you is that this grip, this almost death grip that the irrationality of the subconscious is out on people, can be easily corrected and broken so that all those levels of response become more richly, more diversely, and more securely accessible to you. It's not to say, give this up. That's just trying to avoid something. It's to say, yeah, it's all there. What do you want to use? And to know when you're misusing it because you stop feeling comfortable and how to correct it. Dean, please jump back in.
I was thinking about a walk I took yesterday when you were mentioning all the things that are escalating. I've realized as much energy as I've been putting into fixing things, whether it be other people or whatever's breaking down, machinery-wise, or, trying to get the communication across to whatever it is that you need. I took the walk yesterday and I saw how I remember a time when I just took a walk just to release the tension, just so I could. And I couldn't feel, if you won't mind me getting a little poetic here, the love of nature, the love of what's all around me, the beauty and taking it in. I mean, I was looking at it and I wasn't seeing it. But I let myself come into this place of enjoying what it's like to be in the moment, in the walk, no expectation of myself. We need to take these breaks. Now, this might be, for some people, I know it is for me. I love listening to educated and intelligent people speak about what they're facing. What we do need, and this is part of the pleasure piece, is to honor our body, our state of mind at where we are, and not be so judgmental. Don't break down. Don't be so hard on yourself. Stop picking on yourself. Make it a worthwhile journey, because we're all part of this game of living, and the journey is to be enjoyed as well. I don't know if this resonates with everybody, but for me, I have to take a break. If I don't, I get so worn down. And I've done, spaces where I've, survived on 2 and 3 hours for weeks, and it's ridiculous. And you get into strange, you're thinking, gosh, am I really doing this? Am I really pulling this off? You don't have to go to such extremes, perhaps. But what I want to encourage people is to take the time to enjoy their space. And what we love to do, this is why we want your feedback, is get questions for our topics and our shows. And we do have websites, both Am and I. Mine is www.acutone.com, and our radio shows are archived there. And they even are commercial free on both Evolving the Species and also on State of Mind Quality of Life, 2 separate shows. So you can get the YouTube, and you can also get the MP3, listen to our shows commercial free. And Am's website, Am, would you like to go ahead and give your information out, please?
Sure. My website is www.lifegame. That's LIFEGAME, like the game of life, lifegame.com. And I've put a lot of things on there, more to come. There's some podcasts on health, on consciousness, on the dynamics of intimacy, just the beginnings of that. You'll find some excerpts from my book. But with what we're talking about, on the homepage, you'll find in an accordion section a number of topics. One is called The Process, something that I have developed that I long to teach the professional community because I can only touch so many people. But these are 5 steps to self-actualization. The first step being to permanently and non-regressively break the grip of the subconscious. Make your feelings accessible and malleable to your conscious mind. That's just step 1. But you also find something called the Geigers. How do we know if we're kidding ourselves? Bullshitting ourselves, so to speak. How do we know when we've gone off the rail, and what do we do about it? There's a nutshell summary of 3 steps. and I have the gall, you notice I have a lot of that, to say that there is nobody on this planet, no one who has ever existed, who can find one single exception to those three Geigers, that they are not just pretty good, they are psychologically infallible. And though there's more to them than I've put down there, the use and application, using those three, if you bother to, and check them out, see if you can come up with an exception, excuse me, in yours or anybody else's life. Any character you've seen depicted in a movie or a book, anywhere. If you can't and you bother to plug into them, and all learning has a mechanical phase, you'll find they'll short circuit a lot of your anxiety and give you a way to deal with things. That's part of it. The other part is, as long as you're battling your own feelings, as long as you don't have control, you're always in a war zone. And we're talking about a quality of life. And the thing is, yes, there's a lot of stupidity and nefarious things going on.
We got about a minute, guys, so it's time to start thinking about an executive summary wrap-up here.
All right. Well, I think we just wanted to point out some things to you. We have so much more to share with you. We want to. It's our contribution. Evolving the species. The state of mind determines your quality of life. And we want to give you access securely and comfortable. Whatever you choose to do with it. Once you're comfortable, you do what you want. That's part of your own discovery. But we know what you will do as long as you remain locked up and fighting yourselves.
One more time with those websites, guys. With anybody who's you've got their attention now. So anybody who's interested, they really need to know those websites. One more time.
Mine is www.lifegame, like the game of life, lifegame.com. And Dean, go ahead, give yours again.
Yeah, it's Accutone, www.accutone.com, and come listen to our shows and get some tools for awareness and enjoy yourself while you're doing it. Thank you.
Guys, I thank you so much for your participation in the United We Strike Marathon. You're kind of regulars at this point, and we sure hope we can count on you coming back next month. But any chance either one of you... Go ahead.
Looking forward. Let me ask you quickly, is there a round table today?
Yeah, that's what I was going to put on the table. I just wondered if either one of you might be interested in a callback for the round table. It'll probably be long about 7:30ish Eastern time.
4:30 is good. I have to leave here by 6:30. So anything between, if you're talking about 7:30 Eastern, I'm in Los Angeles, so it would be 4:30.
Yeah.
So you would call back around 4:30?
Yeah, is that good for you guys?
It should be me too.
All righty. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure and a privilege.
Thank you so much. Got to move into our next presentation. A little dancing music will take us out.